Welcome, everyone. I know it's really busy out there in primary care, and to make time for a webinar is always something we really appreciate. So my name is Shankar. I'm a GP lead in digital transformation primary care in NHS England London region, but I'm not here alone. We've got members of our London team, people like Hannah, Shona, who are assisting in the background and keeping us all sane. So what are we here for? We're here to talk about how to optimize the registration form from NHS England that you've all pretty much using. And just to explain how this works, these slides that they'll all be shared, they've all got QR codes, they're all interactive. You can, when you get the slides, you'll be able to click on them, you'll be able to scan them and get to wherever you want to do. So please don't fret. We're scheduled to try and do this in half an hour. I think there is a high chance we are going to overrun, but I'm really keen that we get the critical points out within half an hour. The recording will be there. We will go fast at times. I will lose you at times, but please don't worry too much about that. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, the structure of what we're going to do today is we're going to just go for a brief introduction about what on earth we're trying to cover, what the issues are, and give you some data. Don't we just all love data? And then we're going to move on to thinking about how we can improve digital uptake. Do you even know what that means? Well, that's talking about whether your patients are registering online, not through some paper forms. And when we say online, using the NHS England online registration form, then we're going to talk about auto registration, which may be new. And then we're going to really confuse you by then talking about something else that's new called managed patient registrations. And then we'll end on some potential chance for questions and links. Now, I'm going to be going quite fast. Please do post in the chat. We'll then try to catch up towards the end if I lose people. And again, this webinar will be able to be viewed by this QR code on the right. But I did do a webinar about a year ago, an introductory. Some of it is dated now because it's from 2025, January, but a lot of it is still current. So if you're absolutely new to this product, probably we won't be able to do too much of an introduction, but have a catch up at that webinar if you're completely lost. And if we start off with introductions and the data, I'm going to really confuse you. Why am I starting with an absolutely busy slide with lots of links? Well, this will be shown at the end of this webinar, but it's just useful here. If you are watching recording, you have a slide deck. For easy reference, you've got it at the beginning. This may even seem all gobbledygook, overwhelming, but I'll try to get you through some of this today. So if we move on, let's just go through an overview, just as a ground ourselves. The online registration form is a free product from NHS England for all practices in England. And the patients access it through the Find a GP webpage, the NHS app, your practice website, posters and messages that you may send them with links. And what was the goal of it? It was generally to reduce your burden. I know you may feel that that's really rare that NHS England tries to reduce your admin burden, but it is true. They did it to try and help manage your catchment areas, to try and help match that patient to the record, to get fewer exceptions and rejections when you register them. And then going forward, they're trying to reduce your workload even further. Auto registration is the integration where the registration comes into your clinical system. We're already live with SystmOne, EMIS is in pilot, and Medicus has already got some approach using RPA. We'll come back to that in a moment. But also on the horizon is another product called Managed Patient Registrations, a portal which helps you again to automate some of the management of registering the patients to reduce your workload. So, you know, this is all good. What is it that pre-NHS England wants to get out of it? Well, hopefully when you reduce your workload, it also means that you speed up the registration of patients, which gives a good experience for the patient and hopefully everyone. But let's get real. Not all our patients are digitally savvy, and there is a paper version of the form, but we're trying to minimize the use of that. More on that in a minute. Let's look through some of these figures. 99.7%, basically 100% of practices practically in England are live. And this is an interesting number. I should have made this bigger. 76% of registrations already are going online digitally through the form, not through the paper version. It's already handled 7.9 million registrations, so it's got that robustness. And again, if you look at the time, it takes a patient about 11 minutes. That may seem really long, but when you think about some of the forms that we used to, we pretty underestimate how long it takes a patient to do. And it's quicker when they use the NHS login. And about 42% of patients do use the NHS login, which means that some of the information is filled in for them. And the satisfaction rates are high from both practices and patients, and the completion rate is pretty good. About almost 70% of patients, when they start the online registration process, will complete it. If you want to know more about this data and drill into it a bit more, this QR code takes you to performance data, and we are going to go a little bit more into that, because this is a black dark side, and maybe that's how a lot of us might feel about the GP contract. So yes, I'm going to name it. It's landed. Yes, I know the profession has rejected it. They thought it's imposed. I don't want to get into lots of discussion here, but let's look at one element here. It talks about streamlining GP registration, and it says it mandates the use of online registration in all registration cases. Remember this word, all. And this sounds even really crazy. Practices will be required to enter information from paper registration forms into a national online registration system. So basically saying that even if your patients complete something on paper, you're going to have to type it into the online system, and you'll be thinking, why on earth are they increasing my workload? What do we gain from it? Now, I hope I will show you some of that logic. And those two products I mentioned, Ultra Registration and Manage Your Registration, Manage Your Patient Registrations, are two bits of this puzzle. And if you just give them a bit of grace, that there is some logic that this could help reduce your admin. Maybe I'll show you as we go along why that's mandated. And here we have another bit about practice boundaries. You can change them through a catchment tool, but if you do that, you have to make sure it's approved by your ICB. Probably never even knew about that as a tool about catchment areas. And again, we'll show you that. And if you want to look at your GP contract, or if you don't want to look at your GP contract, there's your QR code there. So let's plow into the data. So that QR code takes you to a web page where you can look at the digital uptake dashboard. Now, you do need to request access on it. Some of us have had problems experiencing access. If you do, please use that email address. Do flag it if you can't get access. But let's crack on. So we're covering London today, and I'm going to start in my little patch, Northwest London, because I am also a GP lead in IT Northwest London. And here's our starting point. So I've just put, to orientate yourself, at the bottom, these are the bars or thresholds of practices. So these are practices that about 90% plus of their registrations in the last 3 months are going through the online form. This is like, again, 80 to 90, and you can see my drift, it goes down by 10%, and these ones right at the bottom. So your starting point, and this data is taken from the 7th of April, literally last week. I need to say thank Hannah for giving me the data, because I can't even get access to the portal. So please, if you do have problems, do let us know. And you can see that the starting point is actually really good. So you may be thinking that 100% is ridiculous. I think you would say that surely all practices can be above 90%. And I know you may be thinking your population is diverse, language barriers, they don't have smartphones, don't have internet. Well, a lot of that is in Northwest London. So just want to highlight that. But let's move on. North Central London. And this has obviously been merged with Northwest London, but I've separated them out as two ICBs at this stage. And it's a similar picture. Most of practices are at 90 to 80%. So you could argue, why are you on this webinar? You're doing really great. You're just wasting half an hour of your life. I apologize, but maybe you don't know where you are. Maybe you'll come off this webinar and you'll look up where you are. Now, I haven't listed all the practices' names. I didn't think it would be right to do this in a Pan London webinar. And also, I didn't have enough time to go through all the practices' names. But this is North East London, and it's a similar picture, maybe slightly bit more spread. Then look at South East London. Again, a similar picture. Everyone's flying really high, making my life really easy because I've got very little to do. And then Southwest London is again really similar. So again, if you go into that performance data dashboard, you can see exactly where you are, but don't be basically, hopefully, I think you should be inspired. And even if you're really down here at the bottom, it's quite quick to get back up there. Honestly, it can be done really quickly. So we covered the introduction of the data. We're now going to move into how we can increase digital uptake. Fancy words. So let's start by the confusion of our patients. Let's remind ourselves, how do they find our service? Again, they find the registration from our practice website promotion. They find it through the NHS website, Find a GP. They find it through the NHS app and, let's say, that paper form. Now, I'm not being negative about the paper form. Obviously, there is a definite digital exclusion need, but you can see that this can increase our workload. If you want to see some of those experiences, the NHS experience, here's a walkthrough video that I've done. And again, if you want to go to find a GP and just test how it looks for your practice, those are some QR codes there. But let's fly through those one by one. So that's a practice promotion. So, we should all on our practice website have that link. And here are some of the latest posters and resources we can do. We're going to go into this in more detail, but that's how they find it for our practice efforts. This is the Find a GP experience. Again, they look up a postcode. It shows our practices, and there's a big bold link that says register online. And we basically all got that link now. And this is the NHS app experience. So if you didn't know, the NHS app has been refreshed. There's a new look. It's been about 60%, I think, of patients or public have already got the new look. This is the new look. And just to orientate where it's moved, it's now on that first homepage. When you scroll down, you can see Find the Services and GPs there. So it's right on that homepage down at the bottom. Again, there's demo videos that walk you through the experience of completing a form. And here we have it, that paper form. So if you didn't know, it's called the PFR1. That should be a new bit of terminology. We've got to erase memories of GMS1, replace it by PFR1. You remember, in the NHS, it is always a 3-letter acronym. So it has to be 3 letters. And anyway, here's a link to that form. Now, there's lots of ways to find that form. This is a direct link. So if you hopefully seen it, if you didn't know, it was updated in October 2025. So the first question is, are you using the right version? So we've seen the 4 different main pathways that patients get into our service. How can we optimize this? And this is where I start to play with Lego. We've got 13 tips for you on how to optimize it. But you've seen a lot of you doing really well. A lot of you are probably doing all of this. So please do multitask, juggle your emails if you think this is patronizing as we play with our Lego. And please go for coffee. You're all working hard. If I'm boring you, just do it. This is recorded. Life is too short. You've got time to catch up. So let's look at one example here. This is a practice that looks pretty, it looks like a good website. It looks great. It's a practice that at first glance seems like it's going okay. But then when you look here, there's 2 different forms. That's your first clue that something may not be right. There's an adult form and a child form. So if you didn't know, the NHS England form is just one form. And actually, this is a practice that is low on the uptake. And it is simple things like this about using the form. But let's just, if we were to click the button, is it showing the right forms? And this practice is using a Google form. Now, this may really suit their needs. It may be really, really great for them. But we've just got to think through what the impact. Whoops, sorry. Someone's pressed a button and I've lost control. This is the modern world of technology. Okay, hopefully I'm back in control, which is what helps me. So here I am. Let's go back to what we need to do. Now, this goes back to another GP contract that we've probably all forgotten. This is 24-25. That was pretty good vintage. I don't know. We've probably forgotten it. But if we didn't remember, on the 31st of October 24, we had to meet a deadline that we only had one sole product that we used for online and paper registration. We couldn't use all our other forms. It was a contractual requirement, but it wasn't just in the GP contract. It was a legislative change also. When you look through, all these acts of, I don't understand law, to be honest, but went to Parliament or whatever, and they actually meant that by to register a patient, you can only accept if a practice register them if they use those forms. So it's not just that contract, it's legislative change as well. And here's a lovely fancy link that will show you that fancy bit of legal jargon. But let's move on. Our team, and I really need to say credit to the whole on the team. With Christmas, I think of Christmas as a time for watching movies. I don't have streaming service, but that's what I think, catching up. But no, our team back in 2024 December, so getting into January, they spent their time checking all the different practice websites they could to see what were they using. And it really just showed that picture of everyone's using different forms. Even the paper forms were incorrect, or you had the national form, but you also had another extra form. So a lot of confusion. Now things have definitely improved since we did this. Now we haven't had time to go back and look at it. This is clearly improved, but I just wanted to say everyone may think they're sorted, but probably there's things that you want to check on your website. And what I also find is sometimes there's 5 different ways to get to registration, and you may have updated one bit of your website, but another bit of website's got a legacy form. So really, really just test it out and check you've updated everything. So tip number 1, I know we're only on tip number 1, guys, we've got another 12, 13 to go. So just get that coffee in. Okay, so tip number 1. only have the NHS England registration link on your practice website. And this is me patronizing you. Delete every other link or content for it. Remove also references to providing ID and proof of address. Now, you may feel that that's a bit tense. You're thinking, why am I having to do that? I feel quite comfortable. I want to do that. Well, look at how the flow works for the patient, and how they go through that form. And even look at your requirements, your regulations about do you need it? You can't demand it, you can't ask it, it can't be a barrier for it. And I think when you really process map it, it doesn't really add much value. And also, even if our patients give stuff to us, it can all be Photoshop, it can be altered. We're not cybersecurity or digital experts to know if it's genuine, and we can't even store it. We can't even save it into the patient's record. So even if we had a query later on, so I think personally that you often only have to request it if you really have an identity crisis. Sorry, not us. Well, we probably do have an identity crisis, but more about our patients having an identity crisis, and we're not sure we could identify them. And remember what I said about that paper form. There should be no GMS1 forms around in your memory. It's PFL1. Okay, if in doubt, you don't know how to update your website, hopefully you've got a provider that will help you. All the big providers do know about this, and this is now quite old news to them. So they should be able to help you if you've got any problems. If they also happen to be giving you a registration form of your own present, please get them to disable it. Remember, it's that sole form. They're not actually really helping you much. Okay, we're on tip 2. Media. Isn't this all really colourful? So there's a huge range of new resources that came out a few weeks ago in March. They've just refreshed it, lots of images. And I'm just going to walk you through it. You've got your standard, your typical, this is like GP surgery, background's a bit GP. Then you've got your nuanced targeted things. You've got a new baby one, and we've got 2 versions. And then you've got, moving house, moving away to study. Yeah, I know. You're probably wishing that your kids would move out and move to study to get some peace. I don't know. Or maybe wishing they would move back. Who knows? And then you've got the new to England type teams. You've got lots of different things, but they're available in different things like posters. These ones are like social media, different aspect ratios. And then you've got things like, suitable for our media screens. They've got them in different sizes, different ratios. And you've got things like banners here. So you can put your practice episode. All of this you can access on this QR code to get you to the resource site. Okay, now I'm going to suggest these are the 3 ones for general practice, the sort of generic ones. Okay, because I don't think if we put, moving home into our practices, we probably don't even have space to display all of them. So these are 3 themes. And the 2 things I would say is you really got to try and think of 2 key points to display them. Near your reception desk, and my logic is this: your staff are really busy. You still may get some walk-in people. I know we're in a digital world. I know I'm a digital lead, but I have heard a rumor that people still walk into practices. And if they do walk in and they bother your receptionist, at least they can quickly say, look, scan that QR code. I don't know what else to tell you. Just do that. So whatever they say. So it helps them to have that resource near the desk to manage the queue. And I'd also say front door windows, because our patients, when they move areas, I don't know about you, but sometimes you check out the local practice and you realize they're closed. They might be standing outside. So if they see that poster, they see how to do it, they started their journey, they've avoided delays. So I think those are 2 key places to display it. Now, out of these 3 visions, I must admit, I personally, I'm not like totally bought into the artwork here. I kind of think they're, does it grab attention or not when you see it in a GP practice? Does that look very clinical? Is it GP practice? Is it a hospital corridor? I probably prefer number 1 here. So number 1 is one that I would go for. But I'm a bit of a homebrew type person. I like to tweak things. I believe in personalization. So this says you can register with a GP surgery. This is the Shankar. Let's just paste over it. I kind of think the wording we'd want in our surgery is you can register with our GP surgery. It seems more welcoming. That's the kind of wording I would use. If you do want to sort of edit it, I've made all these are downloadable as JPEG. So this is put onto like a PowerPoint thing. It's just easier for you to add things on top of it if you want to just make a homebrew version like myself. I've also blanked out the QR code so you can put a QR code for your practice, because the standard one takes you to the Find a GP page, which is still good. They'll find you, but you may want to take them directly to your practice's form. When you registered, when you set up the registration service, you got that unique link. I'll tell you what that link will be in case you've forgotten it. So that's my homebrew number 1. But I believe in, by the way, I don't drink actually, but I'm just going with this homebrew thing. Homebrew number 2 is the retro look. This was the marketing mirror from launch, and was replaced by the new version. And sometimes I believe old is gold. To me, I do think it's still dramatic. It is yellow. It grabs your attention. It's quite generic. Again, I did alter it. I put the R and I put in this, and I sort of tweaked it a little bit cosmetically. If you want the homebrew previous edition, if you like the gold era, you can also use this QR code. Anyone with an NHS mail address can access that version too. So that's the homebrew. What does that mean to you? You need to use a QR code for your practice. How do you do that? It's a couple of clicks. If you paste in your unique link for your registration link, we'll come back to what that link is. If you paste that into any sort of Edge browser, and then you just click on any right space, right click, and you've got create QR code for this page, it pops up like that. You press copy, and then you can paste it into my homebrewed efforts. There you go. Same with Chrome browser, exactly the same. The only thing is you get a dinosaur. I personally do think if you're a Jurassic Park fan, this is the version to go for. But being serious, actually, I do think it is a serious point. You should have dinosaurs. But you can also think of this as dead space. So probably the quickest and simplest thing is if you want to put a practice logo or something on here, you can just play around and put something on that because it doesn't need that little space to work. There's lots of other ways to make QR codes, but I'm just showing you the free and cheap and quick click ones. So these are practices that are just going out and putting those old brew versions, version 1. And you can see they put it in the front doors, in the reception areas. Sometimes our practices don't have color printers. We're in the real world. We just do what we can do with the resources we can have. People just assume we have things which we don't. So black and white, anything is an effort. Sometimes you can take the homebrew even further. And really, I think the concept is just anything that gives the point across. This is a homebrew or another homebrew. Don't you just love it? And, like just going around, you can see it. And sometimes, if you don't have a desk, just stick it anywhere on a desk. Put it in the toilet, put it anywhere really, I guess. And bare walls. So just keep displaying it as a concept. Go totally homebrew here. Just stick a QR code. Do whatever you want. Just do something. But you have the resources out here. But I would say don't just stop at practices. Don't just stop with your toilet. Go further. Let's go to the source of the issue. The baby's popping out of maternity units. So this example where we've liaised with trust to say, please display those resources when that baby comes out, get that patient, that parent to register them before they've left the hospital. So it lands, we've got no pressure. We're not chasing immunizations. So liaise with your maternity units. We've tried to, but it's so difficult, isn't it, to get a hospital to display a poster. So if you're in a leadership position or you have connections, or if you even want to just pop down there and just put it up yourself, just do it. Okay, now we are going to urgent treatment centres. You can do it there. You can do it everywhere. We've messaged all the registry offices across London, so we've got them to put them up as well. So this is all helping you get to that 90, 100% rate. And here are some of those registry offices. Now, I'm conscious of time, and we are going to probably go over. It is going to be recorded, but I'm just going to go through a little bit faster. So the paper forms, my tip here is do not leave them physically lying around in reception. Print on demand. Have that link allowed, maybe just a couple of emergency copies. And when you think about that link, this is a link that lands to a landing page. It kind of tells the patient a bit more, and then they click a link to go to the paper form. And this link here goes directly to that paper form. So you might want to bookmark it for staff, so they just click it and print on demand. Are they just a bit more likely, if they have a whole pile of paper forms, just to hand them out? If you just don't have them there, aren't they going to only hand it out when that patient really needs it? You can also download it from Profile Manager. If you go to Profile Manager and put Manage Register with GP Surgery Service, you can click in and you can download it there. So there's lots of ways. So when you go in here, you've got a download link there. As a totally side point, if you're struggling with language barriers in patients, there are lots of other paper sort of registration type forms and aids to collect information in lots of different languages. So, I am being serious here. It will never work for all patients, and we do need to serve their needs. So something useful for you there. Okay, step 4 is go into Profile Manager and just check your settings. You set up the service ages ago. Is there anything you need to do? So again, in Profile Manager, you go to Manager Registration with the GP Surgery Service button. And when you click in here, you can click on View Details. When you view details, it shows some of your settings here. The first thing I'll say to check is just check your patient access. Are you correctly set up? Because sometimes we've seen cases where practices have accidentally turned them off, like they may have turned off one part of the functionality where they're not visible on the Find a GP page, but your link works. So you should be set up on this one here. And next thing is, do you need to refresh or check your settings for additional questions? Again, things may have changed since you went live. So again, the questions are about language interpretation service. Most of us are yes, we offer that. Dispensing surgery, most of us are not. Registering university students, that may be something that does help you, and you didn't know that that existed. Particularly if you're a really dedicated university focus at practice. Then here, pharmacy nomination, most of you should have put yes for that to allow patients to do that. But this is one that you may have missed, TB screening. It's an option that they put in later, so some of you might have not seen it. So you can turn it on and it adds additional questions for certain cohorts to help you screen for TB, particularly if you've got a local initiative. And in London, that is definitely obviously a big priority for us. So we're on tip 5, check your catchment area. We think about 20% of practices may have had incorrectly drawn catchment areas. Best way to test it is quickly go to Find a GP page and do an initial screen by just typing in your own GP practice postcode. If you're not showing up top on the list of options, there could be an issue. And this is the catchment area hub. So that's a look of it. This is the link to get into it. It's a bit complicated. In a practice, you can have multiple staff that can view the catchment area, but only one person who can have rights to edit it. There's a lot of guides that explain to you how to navigate it. And actually, I found that a lot of practices have not struggled with this. To access this hub, you must already be registered with the Strategic Data Collection Service. Hopefully, do be aware of that from EDEC and other things. If not, here are all the links here. And from EDEC, your EDEC submission, it also manages your catchment area preference. So if you remember, you've got different flows of questions in the registration flow, whether you don't accept at all out of area of registrations, or you might accept out registrations. It doesn't mean that you will have to accept it. It just means that they get a different experience. So again, your situation might have changed since when you first went live with it. And again, it could be something to worth check. But remember the contract. The contract for this year says, do not just make changes in your catchment area without agreeing them with the ICB. But it just shows you how you get access to it. And you may want to just check if there's errors. And that could be affecting the fact that you're doing some paper registrations because the patient can't be found on a postcode. Okay, step 6, some templates to help you get patients to use your online form. Probably the top one I would say is about that babies again. So again, this could be a link to your unique link for your practice, so that if you're texting the parent to take a look, can you register the baby? If they happen to miss the poster because your local trust has not got the poster, obviously step 1 is go around there and get them to display the poster. But also if you're rejecting a registration, you might want to direct them to Find a GP page to basically find a different practice. But one thing I want to make really clear is your patients are automatically being notified when they get registered, and we're all battling SMS costs. So it's one useful thing to realize, and that's been automatically set up. So what happens is when a patient gets registered with you, it will try to send an NHS app notification to the patient. If that fails, it's not possible, it will try email. If that's not possible, it'll try a text. And if it really isn't possible, it will send a letter. So just useful to know that, because you may help find that useful, that you rely on that a bit, so it helps reduce your costs. Step 7, think about your telephone messengery. Do you need to update anything? Is there a flow about registration and you've forgotten to update it? Step 8, this is a bit of a just to improve experiences. If you're not into any registration, not using any third-party RPA provider, we'll come back in a second. If you've got emails flooding into your inbox, maybe just think about an NHS mail rule like this, just to make sure it goes to a folder, you're not losing things, and you're not duplicating efforts of you telling the patient, I can't find it, just fill in this piece of paper. And talking about email still, think about auto reply messages. Maybe you may have your email address on the website, but if a random patient was thinking about joining your practice, send you an email, they may get an auto reply that already tells them to go to the link. On top of that, what I was mentioning was email signatures. So particular to staff members, you may want to have the link in that. So it's easy for them to navigate. Okay, so we have covered a lot of increase into illustration, but we're going to go a little bit slower for these two sections, auto registration and managed patient registrations. Now, in terms of time, we've hit that 30-minute section. If you really need to jump off and totally understand, this is recorded. You can go through this in your leisure, but this is helps join up the dots from why on earth they want 100% to go through that online form. So auto registration, let's start with what you might be familiar with. This is RPA, robotic process automation. There are many providers, particularly Health Tech One and GP Automate, and ShiftChap has been around, that offer to automate your registrations. They you pay them, and they just literally have a robot who imagines typing into your EMIS, your SystmOne, and enters all that form data in. So if you weren't aware of that, there's some links to explain more about those options, but these are paid options. And that just explains a bit more about that flow. One thing I do want to mention is London, we do have Medicus. In Medicus, you have inbuilt RPA. So you actually get that built into their platform. And it will probably evolve in the future, but we'll come into that a second. But now we're going to move on to auto registration. So what I just showed you was RPA, where you pay providers to do it. But the whole aim of the national form was it will integrate with your clinical systems so that the form will not come by email. It will land into your clinical GPIT system. First, would not say you don't panic. It will not automate all registrations right away. And it does it like probably I would say the easier ones, a particular cohort. I'll expand that in a second. And the benefits of this was obviously to improve and reduce your admin and improve your data because it will actually transfer some of that coded information from the form into your record. Now, if you're using an RPA provider, then you're probably used to this. I guess the one advantage though is it obviously comes free, so there's a cost advantage. Last summer, this rolled out for TPP SystmOne. It had a pilot phase before that. All practices in England can have that. Now, I know most of the PHSs on this call are EMIS. London is mainly EMIS. And EMIS is in the pilot phase and hoping to roll out later this year. So I'm going to give you a couple of SystmOne screenshots, which will probably mean absolutely nothing to most of us who are using EMIS, but just to show the concept so you understand the concept. So what would happen is, a task would come into SystmOne that says it's an automatic registration. In SystmOne, we would click on it to basically action it or view it. And then what will happen, if I click it, is the form gets saved into the patient's record, and the patient's record was created. So you didn't have to create the record. And then it gives a prompt saying, well, this is coded information form. Do you want to accept putting it into the patient's record? And you have some settings in SystmOne. You can make it send a task when a patient is registered. And I always give a tip about, when these tasks come in, you can create things like rules so that the tasks, those incoming forms go to particular teams in the practice, is what we can do in SystmOne. And I always say, think about where you want it in that task rule. Now, for all you EMIS people, you're thinking, what on earth I'm talking about? So I'm going to end it there and move us back to this bit. What registrations qualify for auto registration? So at the moment, and this might be evolve in the future as the product develops, but it's adults aged over 18 who've used the NHS login or the NHS account. They live in the catchment area of the practice. They're transferring from another practice in England, and they're not being previously registered with the practice. And they've not got sensitive markers. So not the scenario that you've just removed a patient because they've been violent and then they've just hit the website and they've just re-registered themselves. So that's that kind of scenario. We think at least about 25% of your registrations would fall into this category, and the hope would be that this expands. If you're a TPP practice on this course, you can go live and select this yourself, and please do. Partly because then people will stop chasing me to chase a SystmOne practices. And again, it's that wonderful thing called Profile Manager. You go into Profile Manager, you go to manage the options, and here you go back to view details. I've shown this kind of before. And you'll see this option here, automatically accept patients. Now, this practice is already set up for yes, but just imagine or not, you click on change. And then when you click on change, it just says, do you want auto registration? It's either yes or no. It's not a 20-stem answer asking you to upload documents, data. That's for another NHS England product. But for this product, it's just a yes or no. You click continue, and that is it. So auto registration, it works potentially in parallel with if you have a third-party provider. So if you're using RPA, it could mean that you accept that registrations to get auto-registers, you're not billed for, you're not charged for, and then you allow other registrations potentially go through the RPA. So it can work in parallel. You can reach out to your RPA provider. You may feel the experience is different. You may feel the amount of coding is less. It's a maturing product, it's developmental, but you can make your own decision. Okay, so now we're going to the other next new thing called manage the patient registrations. And if I haven't lost you already, I will maybe lose you a little bit. So this is a get in pilot. So this is maybe a sneak look. We always want to see something new in these sort of things, don't we? Because, you know, we've dedicated to come to this webinar. So what's new is, first of all, this is a page that explains more about it. So please do. Oh no, someone's taken my control yet again. This is really cool. Why does everyone want to take my control of my slides? Okay, am I doing such a bad job? Here we go. So it's a portal. And do you get more information from this code? So it's a portal and you log in through your SysTO identity. You do need to have a particular role type in your smart card to get access. But in your practice, you would just click on this. So it's all web-based using our HSN connection. And once you log in, you sort of see patients that are new, pending, and ones you've accepted and rejected. If you're confused, I apologize, I'm probably confusing you. This is potentially capturing the patients that didn't get in that auto registration. So that auto registration, remember, it picked up 25% of them. This gives you the other patients. And it's basically really helping you say, well, look, I want to review them. I accept it. And if you accept it, it will then trigger that patient to go through the auto registration process and fire it back into your clinical system, like you saw earlier. So again, reduces your workload and coding. Now, all of these screenshots are in develop, like this is in a pilot, it's an evolving product. So don't take this all as gospel. But if you click on like this, you sort of see a list of this is all obviously dummy data. There's the patients that are waiting and, you know, reasons or things that might be an issue, and you can filter this, you can track it on age, catchment issues. But when you click on each patient, view details, I'm not showing this here, but this box here expands. There's actually lots and lots of boxes below this, but I just didn't want to spend a lot of time showing it. You can expand each box to show different bits of the registration form and their details. So you can basically scan, filter the registration form. And then if you make a decision, if you want to improve it, you click on approve, and that's it. It will get up saying if the patient's approved. It will fire the patient off into your clinical system. So you receive it then as a task. Let's go back to another patient, Isabel. Let's just suppose this patient we want to reject. We've filtered it. There's some issue we've seen. We need to reject it. So it'll ask us for a reason why we want to reject it. So you have to pick a reason. For some of the reasons, if we put, for example, other reasonable grounds, it will pop up as a box and you have to put some reason in. For some of the reasons, you don't have to enter any more information. And then once you click it, it says rejected. So it's just filtered that flow. So I've just done you a whistle stop. Hopefully you got a glimmer of this, and maybe we're joining up the pieces. You can see that the reason the contract's driving you to be digitally is you get the auto registration. It reduces your workload. You've got the manage your registration portal, but all of that only can manage the ones that are digitally. So you can see that the logic here is if you even typed it in manually into that portal and it fires in as an auto registration, it fires in this, it still could be a similar workload or a reduction. Now, I always like this slide here because when you look at that flow and that confusion, really, this is probably the most important tip, that your team needs to join those dots together. That receptionist needs to understand why that 20 seconds extra discussing to that patient, do you want to scan that QR code? Can you navigate it? Could save that administrator a good few minutes. And we work as a team and we start to actually see the benefits that this may be generally an NHSE product that is designed to reduce our workload and improve our patients' experience. So we've come to the end of this webinar. I've gone over in time. I did try to get you out of here in 30 minutes. I know that there's stuff going in. I imagine lots. I know that Ian, and by the way, if you don't know Ian Jones is part of the national team. He's an absolute star. He honestly, he's one of those guys that just is so diligent. He answers all the questions. I dread to know what he's corrected in the chat. But you know, a really great guy to connect with if you haven't connected with him already. So this is that really busy slide that I showed you at the beginning, and hopefully starts to make a bit of sense. So I'm just going to navigate you this when you get it or see it. So this is that first main page for the product that gives you more information. Here are a couple of those webinar recordings. This is the one from today. It should work once we upload it. This is my old one that gives you a bit of old background. You remember old is gold? You can spot the errors, maybe the changes that have happened since that webinar last year ago. That's the performance data. That's the paper form. That's the final GP. Profile manager. If you notice, profile manager is now the key to manage settings and manage things. That GP hub thing, which I showed you. SystmOne auto registration. So this is a demo video, which I didn't show because I didn't want to annoy everyone who's not on SystmOne. But, it shows you a walkthrough of that auto registration. You have no excuse if you're SystmOne practicing this call. Go live today. And that sneak look at what the manager patient registration holds. And this is a demo registration. So it shows you a walkthrough. So if staff want to just test it, see the patient experience, use it. And this is that video demo of the NHS app experience. And then finally, the product roadmap. It shows you what lies ahead with the product. And yeah, so there you go. I'm going to now suggest we, first of all, jump off if you have to get on with work. And if you had to get on with those emails, I totally understand. We do have some overrun time. So if you want to ask questions, if you think things are not in the not picked up in the chat, if you feel brave and you want to come on mic, please do so. Remember that it will be recorded, it will be uploaded, so feel comfortable with that. Oh God, a hand has dropped down. If you don't feel comfortable, please post it onto the chat. Oh no, I've got someone. So Ryan, do you want to just shout out what you want to ask?
Yeah, so this is in regards to how long it takes for the auto registrations to be pushed into the clinical system. Like, how long does it take? Is it 24 hours? Is it instantly?
It's really fast. People report it can feel almost instantaneous. It can feel like almost minutes. I know you can feel that there could be variable downtime, but I think most practices feel they see very little different. And even if you saw how the manage your patient register portal works, and it then fires off the task, a lot of practices on the pilot don't feel they even have to keep manual checks. They feel like the speed is so fast. Bear in mind, though, that at the moment this is with SystmOne practices in that pilot, because auto registration is not yet live. I mean, it's live in a pilot phase in EMIS, but it's not live for general rollout. Okay.
Another question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. More questions.
So for patients, so everyone's mandated to actually upload for the paper forms.
Yeah,
that's good.
No, so just to clear, so first of all, you have to use the NHS England online registration form, and it has that online form. It also has a paper version, which is the PFM1. You have to use one or the other, right? So we're not saying you can't use a paper one, but if you're using the paper one, it has to be that. What you can't use is any other sort of form that you got. Even if it's a wonderful form, you can't use that. But what we're saying in the new GP contract is it's saying if you've got a patient filled in a paper form, you've got to try to manually enter it in for them. I mean, the detail obviously hasn't come out and timeframes when this is going to roll out. But this hopefully now shows you from this webinar why that concept is there, that actually you're going to enter the data somewhere. And if you enter it there, it could then trigger off all those other steps with auto registration or the manage your patient portal.
Does that help? Thank you so much. Yeah, okay. It does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Seema, do you want to go for it?
Hi, I have a question related to catchment login. For some reason, I don't have access to that. I would, yeah.
Can I just check the login? Sorry, I missed the first bit. What are you having difficulties logging into?
The catchment hub.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if actually, like you have to have first of all access to the CBS, and I showed you the link for that, so you can't get into the catchment hub without that. Have you tried the support teams for that I showed? I don't know if you saw the slide. Whistles fast.
I joined slightly late. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I showed a slide. The slides will be shared, and also the recording. You can look at it. I showed a contact point for those two things. So if you start with that one first, because once you've got access to that, then you can get access to the catchment hub. You also may just want to check within the practice, because there may be someone else in the practice that already has access to it, and that will get you into the catchment hub.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Go for it. Mahina?
Yeah, hi. Just wanted to check if patients can register with more than one GP, like, 1 week they register with one GP and then after 2-3 days, they can go and register with another GP online?
Okay,
This
in
way?
the auto registration process, they have introduced rules to do that. I don't actually, Ian, do you know the exact state of the current rule? I don't know if you want to shout it out, but they we can come back to you with the exact detail. I don't want to get it wrong, but they have introduced rules like that with the concept of that because they notice then that is there a re-registration or rapid re-registration flow. We can try to come back to you with the detail. I don't want to misquote it.
Okay, because we have got a very mobile population, and
Yes.
you know, sometimes we notice that we have registered a patient, we have done everything for them, lot of input, and within 2 weeks they have moved on to another GP. So how do we protect that happening?
Okay, I do think when we look across London, I don't think it's usually this product. I do think it's lots of factors. I mean, a lot of patients, I mean, I've had patients myself who literally sat in my room and they said to me, they do not know how they got registered with a different practice. Sometimes there's practices that are quite, want to grow. They do marketing, they make sure they return high up on Google searches. And I don't think it's the product. I think it's more about, some practices really wanted to increase their list size. What I would say to you is if you think you don't understand it, probably reach out to your ICB. Bear in mind, though, that obviously ICBs are really stretched now with the reforms, but reach out to them because if they see trends or themes, they can try to explore it and try to work out what the cause is. But so far, we've not found it to be really the product. It's more like the marketing of increasing the list size is usually the cause. But again, every case could be different. So definitely reach out to your ICB if you think you're seeing an issue.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, do you know what? I'm just
Shankar, hi, good afternoon, Shahid here. Yeah.
Okay.
My question is to being in a GP surgery, if I want to increase my list of the patients, am I allowed to do on a marketing base as well? Am I restricted with that to do a marketing in the community or nearby attachment area?
So first, remember you can alter your from your EDEX submission and what I said to you. You can obviously say that you accept patients outside the catchment area. What I would say to you is when you look at the flow and you look at the disposition of the question, the patient gets a notice saying you may be outside your normal catchment, but they may accept you. It doesn't tell them they're guaranteed to it. Some patients obviously will proceed. Some patients might think, oh, do I look for another practice more closer? So I'm happy to show you you can actually see all the questions on the registration information page, that first link on here, but you can actually see that question. So check your settings. What I showed you about that slide about catchment area, EDEC, and then test to make sure you think you're correct. If you don't think you're correct, sometimes there's a lag. If you alter your settings on EDEC, sometimes it could be 1 month or so before the registration product syncs with it. I did show on that slide email addresses that you can use if you want to chase it or escalate it to make sure it syncs if you've changed your settings from showing that you accept out of area registrations. So that's your first step. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And then the second step, can I say second step is obviously have a conversation about your catchment area, talk to your ICB, but remember it has to be an agreement. That would be your second step if you're trying to grow your practice.
So you're saying there's no restriction at the moment as a GP or practice manager, I'm allowed to do a marketing within my attachment area. Am I correct on that one?
I think you need to, look, I don't want to get too into the detailed contractually, but I think if you discuss it with your ICB and you're doing afterwards, I think they can give you, probably I don't want to go too outside the scope of this webinar.
All right, okay, got it.
But I think if you reach out to them, you have that discussion and they'll tell you what you can or cannot do. Okay, shall I go for, I'm really rubbish at these hands here. This is my screen. Is it Ryan? Have you asked your question? Is that?
Yeah. Just a last additional question. So after the registration, patients would obviously receive updates on the status of their registration, whether they've been accepted, rejected. Would there be any form of promotion or messaging in regards to encouraging patients to download the NHS app as a prerequisite?
You get a star prize for that question. That's one of the top questions I raised from the beginning, and it's definitely there.
I said
even the envelope. Sorry,
with
can someone go on mute if they're
longer appointments?
Can someone go on mute or someone mute that?
I mean, I think you'll be just grateful to have her back on board, wouldn't you?
That could be a more interesting conversation, but can someone mute? Can Hannah or Shona mute that person? Okay, right. So basically, if you look at it, it definitely does promote it. Even the letter, the envelope even has it marked on it. So there has been improvement. It does try to promote the NHS app. Not necessarily. I'm not sure if it is in the text. If they get a text, I need to check it out. But it does mention the NHS app in the other ones.
Awesome, thank you.
Talking about the communication, I mean, what I showed you on the slides, I personally think if you're rejecting them, I think you should definitely message them. You can't assume they're being notified about a rejection. And I think that's also good practice, because you've got to think about the patient flow. You don't want to have any delay. If you message them straight away saying you're not processing it, then surely, there's less tension, you've not introduced delay. And I obviously gave you the template message on one of the slides where I would navigate them back to the Find a GP site. So if you just create that as a default message in your system, whatever messaging platform you're using, that could help you. Okay, okay, I'm going to move on to the next question, which is Anna.
Yeah, hiya. Can I just ask a question about, so when the patient registers, we're using Health Tech One at the moment. Yes. There's a setting on there that we can change to make sure that the patient registers, obviously, with just a particular GP that we're looking, that's in charge of taking on new patients. We also manage a care home. So any patients that register from the care home, we've got a setting where we can make sure that they just get registered with the GP that manages the care home. Is that sort of a setting that is available here?
No, not in the. By the way, what clinical IT system are you using?
We're EMIS, and we're using Health Tech One. Okay,
so at the moment, I'd say to you, no, you can't quite do that. I mean, you could design obviously flows and process, even when you get auto registration into EMIS. I don't think it would at the beginning have that.
Right.
I'm not into all the I mean, I know in SystmOne it also you can do workarounds, but I don't think it will probably be as I'm being open. I don't think it'll be as easy a flow as you get with Health Tech One.
Right.
What I do think though is the products are obviously in development and maturing. So do capture I mean, even that service now ticket, do just submit a ticket, express it. Let's make sure we capture some of that when you do see the functionality arrive or you see it in practices, because it is obviously about the developmental priorities in the roadmap. So all of these things are really important.
Okay, all right, will do. Thank you.
Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we got I think, is it Guy? And by the way, I apologize if I say any names. My screen's my eyes are also going as well, but my screen's a bit small. Okay, so Guy. Okay, maybe Guy has found the answer, or we'll come back to. So we come to Fadwa.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Just to circle back on the paper registration, where eventually practices will need to enter the information to national database or something. Does that mean that at some point in the future, we will receive more information on where and how to upload it to the platform?
On a simple term, your actual link for your registration form, you can plug it into that. So if you think about it, you just open up your form and you can cut and paste and put things in. So that's the way that I would say you can do it from even now, if you think it's going to offer you a benefit. I think though we have to see the detail in the contract. If you think about it, that's the headlines. The actual detail in the contract hasn't landed yet. I think from what I understand, it's also about when exactly in the year this will come live. Bearing in mind that they when they put that into the contract, they were about auto integration and all this. It hasn't yet rolled out for EMIS. So I think it will be, when do we have to meet that requirement? I don't want to speculate, but this is pure speculation. I do not have insight into the detail of the contract. But if you notice, a lot of things that end up being October with lots of IT stuff. You had GP Connect turn on October. You had the requirement for registration using this form was in October. So and this is me speculating. Surely the earliest would be autumn, I would have thought. But we need to see the detail, and that's pure speculation. What I do think is, surely we're in step one. This webinar saying, well, just really navigate the patients who can manage it digitally. All those little tips. So that if you have to have paper, you find we have paper, we're not quite at that deadline yet, but there's lots of little things you can do. And those data sets I showed you at the beginning, I promise you, even in my own borough, about a year ago, like some practices said to me, I said to them, look, you need to try and get at least above 60%. And we had like GP leads, clinical directors said, Shankar, you're ridiculous. Our population, I mean, in Ealing, we have, really deprived ethnic diversity groups. And those same practices are hitting almost 100%, even though they complain that they couldn't hit 60%. So I do think every practice, I believe every practice can go above 90%, no matter what your population is. Maybe that's me being disingenuous. There must be some practices that have got really challenging populations with lots of barriers to access that can't hit it. But I think those graphs you can see, even without really lots of proactive efforts, a lot of practices are hitting it. I do think some of the practices that are already doing RPAs and things like HealthTech1, they're probably already started to optimize their processes. That they realize that digital will save them a lot of workload. So probably we're on different journeys depending on what we've experienced as well.
Thank you.
Gee, can I just check your hand? Was it because when I called you out before? I don't know. Are you here now?
Yes.
Is it the same person or is it a different person?
It's the same person.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want to put your hands
you.
down? I was getting really confused. This is like a patient identity issue. Okay, I was getting really confused. Okay, Fadwa though, have we done? I'm really confused. Fadwa, have you spoken? Yes, do you have your question or have you?
Yeah,
Fadwa?
I don't know what we're gonna live.
Fadwa,
Did you hear me? Oh, sorry.
do you have a question? Do you have anything you want to ask? Okay. Shall
yes,
we move?
Sorry, I just last one. I'm just saying it is. I just want to know when is we gonna be going live, and also for the posters and things. Are you gonna send it before going to live, or is it gonna be after?
Okay. Let's go back. So first of all, those posters, actually we just said that you should have them already. They were there from the beginning of the rollout of this product a couple of years ago. And I would say use them now because I jumped around a bit. I showed you what is there been there really from launch, the actual product. I then showed you auto registration, which is only available at the moment for TPP, but EMIS hopefully soon. And I showed you managed patient registration, the portal, which is in a pilot phase. Only a few practices are involved in that. So the posters, you should be doing it right now because you're going to maximize how many patients are doing it online and not doing it by paper. And if you think about all the admin time saving, it's even if you just stuck with receiving them by email, cutting and pasting it into EMIS and SystmOne is still a lot quicker than transcribing a paper form. So definitely those tips. Do it today.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay. So can I move to Nazish?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I have a question. The reject button.
Yes.
Okay. It gives the impression that surgery is in a position to reject the patient. Now, we have had this problem before. I'm not sure about the new GP contract, but we had this problem before where it's like patient's choice. So we were challenged by the ICB. We were challenged by the local ICB saying that under patient's choice, even if they live 4 miles away from the surgery, we have no right to say no to them. We cannot reject them.
Yeah, so first of all, I think, when I do webinars, sometimes I rush through things. I just want to make a parallel for what happens now. Like before you had that portal, if you got that registration form by email, no one's forced to registration. You've got the decision making whether you register them or not. This is just whether you process it. This is just the high-tech version. It's coming into a portal. But the ethical precedence, the governance and your decision making is exactly the same. You've got to be able to defend your position why you did it. Like in the old days when you just got that paper form, you decided to process it or not. If it runs in that portal, it's exactly the same. It's just so it doesn't mean it's authorized, like that you did the correct thing. You've got to follow those principles. And like those principles, like you saw it, you try to capture reasons, more like from an audit trail perspective, or you thinking, what is it, the reason? But it doesn't mean that it validates it. It doesn't mean that, just because you click the button, whatever, that you did the right thing. It's just doing the tech version of what you were doing in the non-tech journey. Does that make sense?
Yes, but my question still remains: why?
Okay, so
can we reject a patient if
there are a few grounds? So, for example, what suppose there was a technical flaw, that violent page that you just got removed from the page that has a flag and meant to be under a particular service, and somehow he'd handed in a paper form, he or she handed in a paper form, you have that right to potentially reject because you've just had them removed. They've got a particular flag on. The same way in the digital world. And now, hopefully, we showed that there's some safety nets you should avoid that. But there are some scenarios. But what I do think is this becomes contractual. You've got to understand your the regulations. And I would say this is going to probably be outside the scope of this webinar to go through all the detail. But if you have queries, usually I'd say reach out to your ICB, the primary care team, if you're not sure, because it's better to get their steer before you do something. And like you said, you get told, why did you do that? Your LMC often can give you support as well if you're not sure about the regulations or how you interpret it. Because obviously, the patient can definitely complain if you did it for a reason. And then also, like what you just said about, a person out of area and this, then go back to what is your settings? What have you done in your EDOC? Have you said you accept out of areas? You don't accept out of areas? What's your catchment areas? And all of that usually is a discussion with your commissioner still. So really, we've talked about the technical product, but the technical product doesn't replace any of that governance that already exists.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next one, I think, Founder, I'm assuming your hand's going down. So we've got Nazish.
No, that's it. That was me.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Has everyone been done it? Ryan, is that a new hand?
That's a new hand. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're back for more.
Sorry, it's about the dashboard. So the clinical dashboard, does it provide kind of a breakdown of all new patients, new patient growth versus redistributor patients across maybe PCN if we're looking at...
What it does do is it shows you your actual register. And that the thought was that this is slightly sensitive data, like the thought was. So when you get access, it can show you the numbers that are registering, and it shows you the portion that came through online. So you can see that. You might find that useful just to give an idea of what you think your number of registrations are. What I would say is there could be slight semantics about the accuracy just because of time frames. For like a patient, you did a paper form and then registered and you had a delay from when you did it. Sometimes the data might be just slightly, there could be a date capture type issue. I'm not saying it's not inaccurate. I'm saying that it could be slight variation. And in fact, when you pull back, it actually would make sense. Because sometimes the time it took you to register, if it fell into a different period, and the data set, when you look into the portal, you can look back and tell you over an average period of time. So we showed you the data today, looking back at the last 3 months for all those practices, and it is, you can configure it. Anyway, look, I'm waffling now. One of the problems is that I actually can't don't ask me why. I can access it. I could access everything else. This is one thing that it can't be. And us in North West London ICB, a lot of us are struggling. So if you, and the typical scenario when you talk about it's just us in our ICB. So if you are finding problems, please do reach out to us in the London team so we can work out if it's more than just us in North West London. But hopefully you'll have a better experience than me.
No worries. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Parul.
Hi, Shankar. I just would like to know how it will work for asylum seekers, as mostly their online registration comes via hotel, and 50% of the time their details are not matching. So it ends up in the email, although we have auto registration activated. Yeah,
so like I showed you the auto registration, it only does that I would say the easy ones. You remember I said that they have to be matched, they have to be using NHS login. So that's why it's failing, because like you said, they probably don't even have an NHS login. The details may not be matched. They may be new to the UK even. So they will come in manually. Personally, I think it's like what you've always had to do. I think this is a struggle that you've got that was always there, regardless of this tech, that this tech just doesn't help solve it for you because of that complexity. So I'm just being open here. It's like then trying to find the details to get them registered or matched.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more hands up. I just want to turn to the team. We've gone way over, but we're happy to stay on for any questions. Do we think there's any chat questions that aren't answered, haven't been answered? Hopefully, okay, Renu. Okay, Renu, do you want to ask a question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, yeah, thank you for responding. I missed the beginning of the session, and I missed the beginning, so I needed the recording.
Yeah, so we'll Hannah's going to try and get me the file over. I'm hoping it'll be live by tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
but
the
my name
slides.
wasn't
Yeah,
my name wasn't on the list. So I was passed on the link.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We will Hannah and Shane and the team. We will recascade out to the ICB the link. I'll try to post it in the chat as well. The link at the moment won't show the recording, but it will go live. I did show it on the slide, but I'll paste it into the chat, so it'll be there.
Yeah,
So
and we're using HD, so health tech, and we basically pay money for it. This is absolutely free, right? We don't have to pay for this.
So the first thing is that Health Tech is a great company. They've done great things, and there are going to be differences in the service. Remember that this is a developing product. My personal thought is, if you've never used things like Health Tech One, GP Automate, I think you'll think, wow, auto registration.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. I honestly think it's a no-brainer. If you're using one of those providers, remember you can use them both together. You've got the option of talking to Health Tech One or GP Automate, all these companies, to say, do we the ones that get auto registration we don't pay for, the ones that can't be, do they manage? Their approach would probably evolve as well. They also do obviously lots of other products and things, and they're developing. There is certain things that they can do that the national product can't do, and then maybe there's some things in the future that the national product can do that they might not be able to do. One bit of feedback being really open is, I think that a lot of people think there's differences in the coding, the extent of coding. You do have a local form option of Health Tech One as an add-on, which isn't yet available to everyone else if they're not using Health Tech One. And also,
what do you mean by coding? Like what, SNOMED code?
Yeah, I think some people would say they feel they get more coding from the form. But remember what I said about, this is a developmental product. So there's even with the system providers, SystmOne and EMIS, there's a potential they can ingest more and more coded information from the form. But that could be one difference that some people feel.
Yeah, and also, for example, one thing I find with the health tech is, say, with patients have done the blood pressure reading, they've put the blood pressure reading, or they've done the, for example, if they didn't exercise and non-smokers, it doesn't pick up all of that. It doesn't fill up the template. Does this new service, does that?
Oh, you mean like if it was an abnormal blood pressure reading, it doesn't automatically
code
it?
If some patients they write, for example, with health tech, they pick up the pharmacy, if there's a pharmacy. But if somebody's put their blood pressure reading or the template, the health check template, they put the blood pressure, or they say they're allergic to certain things, or they could say, for example, their height, the weight, how much exercise do they do. It doesn't pick up any of that information.
This product also, the national product also wouldn't generally, because if they put it into free takes, but the flow I can only show you a SystmOne flow at the moment, but you can see that what happens, it's the same sort of principle where although we're saying automated, I think it's like slightly semi-automated. It comes in a task, you click it, it does show you the registration form, you can view it. So I think your admin team will probably still maybe do a cursory review, and it's still coded. So I think they'll just find that a lot of the clicking, typing has gone, but there's still a role. It's not like it's completely, you've got no visibility of it, but a lot of that is not at the moment coded. Because if you've seen the national form, there's lots of questions about, if you've got other health conditions, mental health, you can write anything free text into that, and it wouldn't be, there's no AI or any scanning type technology that's trying to look at in the free text answers.
Okay, so I'm on your register with the GP surgery service. I've gone in there to have a look how it works. So I can basically, you're saying that I can register from there,
So when you say register from there, meaning, so first of all, if you're using providers like Health Tech One and GP Automate, they should have already set you up with the national NHSE form. They understand it's a contractual requirement, so you should be. I think most health tech practices in London have probably been switched over, so you probably are live already with the NHSE form. But you can manage some of it through Profile Manager. But what I would say to you is if you're using if you're using Health Tech One or GP Automate, even if you want to make changes, you may need to have some bit of discussion with them So you understand, what is possible, what's not possible.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, because this product is completely free and we are paying for health, so if we want to stop the health tech and use this one instead,
that's always an option for you. That's the option that for all practices.
So the way to get into this is going into what register.
Okay, so just to be really clear, right now, only if you're SystmOne practice can you go to Profile Manager and you can enable yourself for auto registration. So the slides I show the flow is only for SystmOne practices. EMIS practices can try to express an interest, but you will not be able to activate yourself out because it's still in the pilot and testing phase.
It's still developing for EMIS, so it's not live yet.
Yeah, when I promise you, once it goes live, you will come back as a. You might have to put up with me again, but we'll do a little mini catch up with EMIS because most of London is EMIS, so we do see that need. We would obviously, and in fact, put that aside, it would be the national team will be breathing down our necks saying, your EMIS practice is not going live. So we would definitely do a refresher, catch up, and addendum. For that. But hopefully you can see how it's gonna work. Like it will be through Profile Manager. You'll get probably some random cascade telling you can turn it on, and hopefully now that you've turned the webinar, you can rush to it. But what I do think is always keep your RPA provider in the loop. Look, one thing I'll say to you is that everyone is doing great work. Everyone is trying to fix the problem. And everyone has to make their own decisions. This is the national product. It will be free, but every practice has a right to make a choice. But the main thing is to be aware of your choices. I would hate it if practices just didn't even know that this existed.
So we don't use SystmOne. We use EMIS at the moment. So it's it would be later on for us, not now. So okay. Okay. Thank you so much for answering.
Any more questions? Okay, there's already been, for piloting in EMIS, there's already been like a set of pilot practices in London that we've channeled in. I'm not sure. I don't know if Ian can correct us if we're wrong, but I don't think they're taking on any more pilots. But they're hoping to get this live really, really soon. So, let's hope it comes soon, and we will really help try to navigate you through that process when it does happen. Ryan, God, is this another Ryan or is it the same Ryan? Is this another question?
It's the same Ryan. I'm so sorry.
Are you trying to get frequently? We don't give points, by the way, for questions. You don't earn a loyalty bonus to cash in at Tesco's.
No. This is actually legitimate questions because
are you sure?
Health Tech One is now like pushing Bookable, which heavily markets certain practices versus others. What does that look like in the future for practices only registering with the Find My GP practice? Are they still on the top of the ladder when it comes to patient looking for a new practice to register with, or are they going to be bypassed with Bookable?
I think this goes to that slide that I showed you about how do our patients find it, and we obviously if they're hitting a web browser, they're hitting a search. Like I think most people probably use Google, right? The Find a GP doesn't always return as the top option. There are practices that are funding to return right up at the top. It's something the national team have been aware from day one about how that can impact it. And I do think some patients sometimes think they're going to find a GP page, but they've gone to some other page. So that is probably the biggest thing about those search results and those returns. But the national team have always been aware of it and always tracked that issue. If you look at all the other ones, like if they go through the Find a GP thing, there's no, it's going to go by distance. If they go through the NHS app, it's exactly the same. It's basically taking them through a Find a GP side. And then your practice promotion, obviously they're going directly to your links. There's going to be no confusion. So that's why you've got to maximize your practice promotion efforts to make sure you've got the posters, the website, everything like that. So if they do find you that way, there's no confusion. They're coming straight in to the right registration form.
Awesome, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, well, look, we marketed it as a half-an-hour webinar. I think we were 40 minutes, and I think you all deserve places to go through an hour of stuff. So I really hope that you found the questions great, that you got your questions answered. If something pops up that we didn't answer, blame us. Please do blame us. Send us an email. And we can try to see if we can help. And then I do say this all the time, but look, it's not easy working in primary care. It is really busy. You're all working really hard. Your ICBs are going through really difficult time. The regions are looking really time. Be kind to yourself. I showed you 13 steps. You don't have to do 13 steps today. You can do the 13 steps tomorrow. Go and grab a coffee, go and grab a lunch, but just don't forget it. That's the main thing. Just really do take that chance, because ultimately I genuinely am. I'm here talking to you because I do think this could reduce your workload, but I do find that most things that we have to do to reduce our workload, we have to put some work in to get that benefit. So I just want to thank you for your time today. I really hope your afternoon is not too busy and you get some break. Take care.